Hi, my name is Steven and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about things I think about when I buy something, thoughts from a cheapskate. Today we're going to talk about a topic that's not just about pinching pennies when you're buying something. It's about making purchases that truly align with our values and our goals in life. This is because when we purchase something with thought behind it, we can make a better rational choice for our purchase. Because it ultimately helps us determine what we choose to buy with our hard-earned cash. From evaluating an item's true worth to its utility. Deciphering what the purchase is going to be used for is always a smart idea. We're going to dig deep into the strategies that I think about when I buy something. Typically, when we're about to purchase something, the newness and novelty overwhelm us. And it might convince us in the moment that we truly need this object. But if we take time and pause and think about if we actually need it, we might discover what its true worth will be. That ultimately we won't need it and it will be a waste at the end of the day. I've gone through this cycle many times in my life in purchases big and small. And I have figured out what to ask myself before I make those kinds of purchases. So let's see what I think about before I purchase something. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my background, my thoughts before buying stuff, and my general thoughts. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And here we go. In the world of mass consumerism, this can lead us down a dark path of purchases and ultimately lead us to being in the poorhouse for our future. But when we pause to consider our purchases, we take the power back from consumerism because we become intentional and figure out what we truly want in life. By practicing this, we not only save more money, but reduce the waste in our house and forge more of our connections and contributions to the things that are around us in life. When we start to think about our purchases, we start to value quality over quantity, things that are utilitarian and might last longer over time. And being more mindful of what we buy ultimately puts more money into our pockets. In my past, I've never been a big spender. I came from a poor background. But even when I got into a more comfortable lifestyle, it didn't go spend crazy. I was raised to be much more mindful with my money and what quality products that I can buy with it. This helped me to understand not to go over my budget of things that I truly don't need in my life. Through this process and over the years, I've been more selective of the things that I purchase, especially big ticket items. And because of the fact that I do move around a lot, I choose to prioritize things that can go with me and stay with me for the long term. Because lugging my junk around from apartment to apartment just doesn't entice me anymore. So here are some of the things that I think about before I buy something. Number one, do I really need it? This simple prompt helps us to evaluate the necessity of the object you're trying to buy. Do you really need it or not? This question helps us to discern whether it's a fleeting desire or an absolute need. By constantly asking this question, we can curb our consumption wants and foster a more intentional and clutter-free buying of stuff. Lots of stuff that I bought in my past, I just don't end up using at all. I throw it away at the end of the day. This can be a lot of travel souvenirs, clothes, or just random objects that I think would be of value someday. Now that I'm older, I only try to hold on to things that hold sentimental value for me. And things that I do purchase, I make sure that it does have a utilitarian value to it. Most of the time when I ask myself this question, do I really need it? The answer is almost 75% no. Because there are a lot of things in life that we just don't need and can get by with what we have. And to buy something as a showpiece or just a point of discussion isn't really worth it in the long term. So really ask the question of why you really need this object before you purchase it and go deep as you can into it. This will help you to understand the motivations of why you're trying to purchase this in the first place and might prevent you from purchasing it. And that means saving more money in your pocket. Number two, is it long term? This question helps us to invest things that are good for our long-term well-being and helps us to fulfill future needs and goals in life, moving us away from transient trends or short-term thinking. When we think about the long term, we plan for the future and we don't use a lot of short-term thinking in it. That helps us to identify long-term strategic purchases that we might want to make for ourselves. By assessing the long-term potential of that item or purchase, you can align yourself with the goals of your future. And you can help create a collection of these things that stands the test of time and also fills out your personality over time. So when I make purchases, I tend to think about the long term and my needs for it a year or 5 years out. I want to make sure that the thing I buy has many uses and can last me for a long time because I don't need to buy another thing to fulfill that goal. The only exception to this is travel, in which case memories are my long-term goal. But if it's also a physical object, I make sure it can be repaired to last many times its life. When we think about the longevity of an object, we place more care in it. That way we can treat it as a prized possession and not look at it as disposable. Thus, things can last longer and save you more money in the long run. So when you're thinking about buying something, think about how you can make it last and what's its particular use for the future. Number three, how does this make me happy? When you're looking at something to buy, think about how it will make you happy or what emotion will you be feeling after you purchase this object. Really think about if it's genuine happiness or a temporary pleasure, because it's important to assess the emotional impact of our purchases before and afterwards. Because ultimately the goal is to buy something that truly has an impact on our happiness. Because at the end of the day, we truly want to buy something for its impact in our lives and ultimately makes us happier as a result of it. By considering the lasting effects of our well-being through our purchases, we can avoid short-term happiness. In which case the purchased object gives us a temporary high and we go back to where we were before we purchased it, ultimately leading to wasted money. Or when it comes to buying an experience, make sure that it does have a truly positive impact in your life. Things like travel make me immensely happy, and I always try to get out and spend money while doing it. It's something that improves the quality of my life, and it gives me a lot of happy memories in the process of it. Although I physically can't take it with me, the experience lasts with me for a lifetime. Happiness is very subjective, and you have to look inwards towards your own version of that happiness. And make sure whatever you're buying will support that long-term happiness in your life. And not just buying things to show off to people that you have this to give you a temporary high. So making a good buying choice really can come down to whether or not it makes you happy in the long term. Number 4, helping others. Does the thing you're trying to buy help others or not? When you're thinking about buying something for other people, think about its impact on them. Will the thing you buy bring out the joy in others or just help the other person? This perspective helps us to engage in thoughtful gift giving to others. And these acts of kindness have a meaningful impact to the people that we give them to. Everybody loves gifts, but some gifts are more helpful to other people than others. When I give a gift to someone, I always ask, will this gift be helpful to them or not? The last thing I want to do is give someone a gift and they promptly throw it into the trash or become unused. Because if that's what happens, you wasted your money and time getting the gift for that person. So my guideline is no gag gifts. When we're more thoughtful about the gifts we're giving to other people, we also foster a stronger connection with them. Other people will appreciate the usefulness of your gifts, and you'll feel good that it'll be wisely used. And when you're spending money, going to a good cause is the best feeling you're gonna get. So if you're thinking about spending money on other people, ask whether or not you're helping them or not. And number 5, will it educate me? Investing in educational pursuits is usually a great use of your money because it expands our personal growth and development, and it also gives us more knowledge. By putting money back into ourselves, we can ultimately become a better person from that, and ultimately learn and enrich ourselves and the world around us. And when you're spending on education, it can give us the tools to help us adapt to an ever-changing world. And this can help you sustain your career, family, and friends through the long term. If I think that there's a skill or educational tool that will help me, I don't hesitate to spend money on it. This is because there's a potential multiplying effect of your skill set when you spend your money on education. Things I learned in classes or training can always benefit me somehow. And over time, the return on investment has been immense. Things like singing class, improv, and all of my engineering textbooks. Those skills and tools cost a lot, but it was ultimately worth it. When you're thinking about purchasing for an education, think about how it can pertain to you over the long term. Do you see a path where this skill or education can improve your life somewhat? Even if it's not something that you think you'll be successful in, try it out and see where it leads you. Because some of the trainings and skills that I took on, I didn't realize how personally invested I would actually become in it. And at the very least, I met great people along the way. So when you're thinking about buying something, especially for your education, I say go for it. But do think about how it will impact your life with that particular skill set. For me, I've had a great experience spending money in education, and I don't think I'll ever stop in my life. So here are my general thoughts of things I think through when I buy something. As someone who's more inclined to be a cheapskate in life, it's easier for me to think through things before I buy it. I have more an aversion to spending money from my background than other people. So with that in mind, I think one of the best pieces of advice is to sleep on the purchase that you want to make before you do it. Give yourself a full one night's sleep to think about whether or not you still want to buy the thing. Most likely, it's still going to be there next day with the same price. This tool can help us because it gives our mind a pause so that we don't rush in and buy the thing that we want. We might have different feelings the next day and we don't want that object anymore. But if we really needed the object, we might have a reason to go back and purchase it the next day. And this ultimately helps us to slow down our thinking so we don't rush into buying something we don't need. Lastly, the importance of not buying the things that we don't need cannot be overstated. Like Marie Kondo says, does this object or thing bring us joy? Most of the things that we buy in life simply don't bring us joy. It's merely another thing that you put in your house and store for the rest of your life. This kind of mentality doesn't really help anybody, and all it does is drain your wallet of money. So when you're trying to buy something, pause and think about whether that object brings you joy or not. So see if you really need that object in your life, and if you do need it, think about where you're gonna ultimately put it. So those are some of the things that I think about before I purchase something. There's always a reason to buy something in our modern society, but not enough reasons telling you that you shouldn't. Capitalism just doesn't work that way. If you have the money and space, go ahead and purchase all the things that you want in life. But most of us are not that fortunate, and we have to be more mindful about the things that we buy. Because money certainly ain't easy to come by these days, and it's certainly harder to keep in our wallets. I've taught and trained myself to really pause about the things that I'm trying to purchase in life, and really think about whether or not it brings me happiness, joy, and impact in my life for the long term. If not, I don't buy it and just make do with what I got, keeping the money saved for something more worthy. So thank you for watching. Please leave a comment down below on what are the things that you think about before making a purchase, and ultimately, do you make the purchase or not? And I'll see you next time.